And thanks so much for being with us here on Morning Live. Now, Chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry into Allegations of State Capture, Justice Raymond Zondo, has dismissed former State Security Agency boss Arthur Fraser's application to cross-examine witnesses that implicated him in state capture. Now, in passing his judgment yesterday, Zondo said that it is not true that Fraser had not been afforded time, but that he failed to comply with the rules applicable to the process of cross-examination of witnesses. Fraser had approached the Commission to be allowed to interrogate the evidence of Lizo Njenje, Mzuvukile Maqetuka and Sheik, among others. So for more on all of these developments, we're now joined by Legal Practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys, Mpumelelo Zikalala. Thanks so much for your time and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning to Sakina and also to the Morning Live listeners.
So, Mpumelelo, listening to the Commission Chair, Raymond Zondo, reading the dates that go back to about a year ago, it seems that there was a dragging of processes without much really happening. And it would also seem as if the players were talking past one another. Fraser says he wanted documents. He was granted the opportunity but didn't act according to the Commission. Instead, his lawyers wrote 2 letters pursuing the SSA to provide more documents. And at some stage, the SSA said that he failed to specify which documents he actually wanted. So what do you make of all of this?
We must remember that there are a set of rules that govern how commissions are supposed to happen. In this case, there's Notice 397 of 2018, I think, which stipulates the rules in which the commission is supposed to play by. And it explicitly states on those set of rules that if you have any issues with any sourcing of any documents, with the procedures that have been laid down by the commission, you make an application to the commission itself, and you come and explain yourself and say, these are the attempts that I've made in order to source the documents that you require. I failed in these instances and I need your intervention here because you have more ultimate power than me. The information which I'm sourcing from these departments, in this case, the intelligence agency, it is so important because it's going to help me in my testimony here, of which on the following paragraphs of the people that have provided evidence, I want to dispute what they are saying because they're going to mislead you as the commission in giving you accurate information that you can utilize at a later stage. Now, if you are going to rest, and in this case, I would say Mr. Fraser's legal representatives and also him, and also maybe to some extent the state captures legal reps, they didn't assist the commission in order to get this matter to finality. In an instance where a ruling would be made where we then say, you have failed to provide the documents stipulated in time, hence we can't entertain your submissions and we can't listen to what you have to say to us. We shouldn't have waited up until a few weeks up until the final report is issued, as has been promised by Judge Zondo, that the final report is going to come by the end of this year. It's something that should have been dealt with within a short amount of time, and all the parties coming to contribute to what is required with them. But all in all, there are a set of rules that are there. They are applicable, known or ought to be known by all, and that is how you're supposed to conduct yourself when dealing with the commission.
So how important is this matter to the overall standing of this commission and its integrity, given what you've just outlined for us, Mpumelelo? Because obviously now, given how it has ultimately played out, you'll have differing views on this, and not surprisingly so. There are those who would say that Zondo is protecting the witnesses who testified against Fraser, while there are the others who will say, like Zondo himself said, that there's been no explanation why Fraser did not submit those documents, even though the SSA said that they were willing to grant him the request and allow access to those documents, within certain stipulations. So what is the legal principle, though?
Okay. Now, let's look at it from a 2-point perspective. The first one is a public perspective in which confidence is supposed to be given to the commission. Us as the public have to trust the recommendations. We also have to trust the process so that the recommendations are accepted and want to implement them fully. But secondly, it then opens a bit of loopholes here and there, or fertile ground for challenges when the final report is then given out by Judge Zondo. I can bet my last bonus Christmas salary that definitely you are going to find people who are going to take this report on review, and they're going to say either on a substantive point, there are certain things which have not been attended to in terms of the roles of the commission and its intention, or procedurally, as in this case, Mr. Arthur Fraser will then say, if we had a reasonable commissioner in the shoes of Judge Zondo, they would have allowed me, or at least listened to me, or at least considered my submissions when they made their final ruling, and not to throw it out completely, and not even to consider them just because there was non-compliance or strict compliance with the rules that have been stipulated. So all these type of challenges that keep on coming in are creating a fertile ground for a review. And if a review goes through our courts and it is granted, it would then mean that probably we've wasted a few years and a few millions of rands in trying to find a needle in a haystack. I've always stated this. The State Capture Commission was a good idea. However, the way in which we have implemented it is a bit too much. Trying to find what is wrong in each and every single state entity, in each and every single government department is not going to assist us when we need to come up with solutions. If we had broken it down to smaller portions and said, now we're looking at state-owned entities, now we're looking at departments as to what is it they ought to have done and what is it that the different agencies ought to have done, maybe that would have worked, because at the end of the day, we would have had tangible results in which we're able to show that through the information, the work of the commission, this is what we've been able to solve. These are the people we've managed to arrest, and these are the recoveries that we've managed to do. Now, what we are sitting at now is a situation where we have spent years and money. There have been, let's say, a few arrests. I haven't seen a conviction, but has tend to be corrected. There have been no recoveries of money, but has tend to be corrected again. There have only been one person who has resigned, who's a minister. Everybody else is as if it's business as usual. But then you ask yourself, what is the work of our politicians in parliament if they can't apply this oversight in which they've now delegated to the State Capture Commission? What they've ought to have done is to look at all those entities and the workings of the departments and said, this is what you are doing here, which is wrong, and this is what you are doing here, which is right. To simply push it over to the commission and say, deal with it. A commission that may be disputed and taken on review for non-compliance, either substantively or procedurally at a later stage, is simply not for them not doing their work and sub-delegating their duties. And once a court ruling has come out and said the commission did not follow the prescription which it was supposed to follow, we can't implement those particular resolutions or recommendations by the State Capture Commission.
And that is quite serious. But do you think, Mpumelelo, that the commission is poorer for not having Fraser's input altogether?
I think maybe the way that they should have handled it, they would have said, maybe at the end, these are the things that we can take out from your evidence. We're not going to throw it out completely. Maybe there are certain things in which we can consider that we are going to use. Just remember, the commission is not the court of law. The existence is purely on a quasi-investigative type of situation or analysis. So there may be instances where they would say, yes, we want to consider your points, we want to listen to what you have to say, and there's no evidence in which you've provided, so we can't take that into consideration. But we're not going to simply throw out your evidence completely. We're going to look at it, analyze it, and after that analyzation, we'll then come to a conclusion of saying, can we take this? Can we use it further? If we can't, then unfortunately it ends there. But if we can, let us assist, let your information assist us in any type of way, so that at the end of the day, we're able to dig down and find out what exactly happened within your tenure and what exactly happened within the department which is in question.
So you spoke about the role of Parliament and its oversight role in particular. So we'll remember that there were some investigations or parliamentary inquiries into some of the dealings at state-owned enterprises. A lot of what was found there, if you look at, for example, the work that went into Eskom, the work that went into the SABC as an example, a lot of that was repeated at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, with perhaps a few additions as well. But most of what we heard wasn't really new. So just looking at that and looking at the cost of this particular commission. And it's one of the issues that South Africans bemoaned, how long this took, how much money went into it. And the question at the end is always, has it been value for money for the South African public? Because yesterday's ruling comes just a few weeks before the Commission is expected to wrap its work on the 31st of December. So all in all, was this a worthwhile exercise? And if you could just give us your assessment of it overall.
I think let's call it a preliminary assessment. I don't think it was. In fact, what it identifies is the lack of our systems of being able to implement decisions, of being able to implement recommendations that are there. One question that I've always asked myself, we have law enforcement agencies in South Africa, the South African Police Service, the SIU, and many other ones. What have they done to make sure that those reports, when they are received from Parliament, people are investigated and people are arrested and people are convicted? Let's again include the NPA in all of this. What have they done to make sure that the cases that land on their table are prosecuted and they reach finality? If we can stand up today and say, I have 10 individuals that have been arrested, I have an X amount of money that has been recovered due to the State Capture Commission, then I would say it has worked. But what it has done for me, it has been able to prove the point that, yes, we do the investigations. Yes, we do all the groundwork in terms of identifying of what is wrong. But we do not implement measures in which are going to prevent the same results from being produced again. Because at the end of the day, out of all the entities that you've listed, how many of them can we come back today and say they have produced clean audit results, their performances is superb and everything has been fixed after they've gone to Parliament, after they've gone to the State Capture Commission? If the answer to those questions is no, then it basically means that we have failed to implement the corrective measures that have been recommended. Now, if we have failed to do that, let us look at the tools which we have employed or that are there created either legislatively or through best practices, which are meant to make those implementations come alive. If those people are not working when they've been employed to do exactly that, it means they must be removed. It means we need to employ new ways so that at the end of the day, these particular instruments are able to work. At the end of the day, it is the taxpayers' money which is being wasted, unfortunately. It is the taxpayers' money in which is not being able to produce results that we desire as South Africans. So if we are going to have non-performers in critical positions or in critical entities, it means we must remove those non-performers. And we don't need a commission which is going to take a number of years, going to take an X amount of money that we can't be recovered from anywhere to tell us that we've been doing something wrong and something drastically needs to change. At the end of the day, let's remember, Sakina, we have the president, who's the ultimate accounting officer when it comes to the way things government is supposed to work. We have the ministers who are let's call them sub-accounting officers, who then must come and tell us what is it that they have done so that at the end of the day, that departments and state entities are able to move efficiently. If they come to us and tell us that we are still in the same situation that we were in 5 years ago, then definitely they have failed. The state agent, the state law enforcement agencies, they have again failed. If there's no one that has been arrested, and there are no recoveries that have been made at the end of the day. So I think if I was at the helm of any state-owned entity, if I was at the helm of any law enforcement agencies, if I was at the helm of the NPA, I would be drastically looking at how to change the way in which we do our things so that at the end of the day, we are results-driven. We must come back to South Africans and say to them, this is what we have done. These are the results. Assess us on those results. We can't be talking about issues for many years to come. The time has come that we need to change somewhere, somehow.
So if we look at the state capture narrative, and this is a commission of inquiry into allegations of state capture, what does that mean for state capture and the narrative that has been scripted around it? Because if law enforcement agencies are still failing to basically do their job, make sure that people are brought before the courts and convicted, if your state-owned entities are still, fumbling from one disaster to the next, unable to get clean audits and basically be profitable. If everything seems to be going along as it was before, and this is, of course, I'm saying seemingly, what does it mean for that narrative of state capture?
Maybe we then have to assess whether do we call it state capture of people that are not able to do their job or they fail to do their job. Do we call it state capture or is it systems that we have employed that we have so trusted so much that we don't want to change, and yet they produce the same inefficient results that don't lead us to anywhere? But the most important question would be that in terms of the precautionary measures that we have, I will again come back to the law enforcement agencies, because at the end of the day, when we receive allegations of misconduct, allegations of monies that have been stolen, the only place in which we can run to, which is the law enforcement agencies, the only place that we can run to is the NPA. The question would be, why aren't you investigating? Why aren't you prosecuting? I would have hoped that the representative from these two entities would have made live verbal presentation to the commission. Maybe I've missed it, I stand to be corrected. However, they needed to come in and state what are the challenges that they are finding when it comes to prosecuting, what are the challenges are they finding when it comes to investigating. But it definitely means that if we are going to have the same problem years after you've started a comprehensive investigations to the issues that you have, you haven't achieved anything. You haven't even begun to solve the problem. Maybe let's wait up until the final report comes out and find out the recommendations which are going to be shared by Judge Zondo. Maybe they are going to be the antidote in solving all the issues that we have now. But I doubt that they're going to produce any results if evidence of misconduct have surfaced throughout the years and there's nothing that has been done. Only a few people have been arrested, and even after they've been arrested, there are hurdles of legal challenges that are there, proving that the investigations were not done in a proper manner. And there's no one that we can say, this person has been arrested, prosecuted, and we have recovered funds, which is what we want as South Africans. We want results, and we don't want to be told what is wrong with us, and it simply ends there. We must be told, this is wrong, this is what we are going to do to fix it, and this is what we have done in order to fix it. The results are there as proof that you are indeed working as these agencies that you are paying so much for through your taxes to make sure that they are able to run efficiently.
And just finally, with regard to the legal hurdles that may be encountered by those who need to prosecute. So you take, for example, the Bosasa matter with Vincent Smith, and you see swift action there. Vincent Smith, Angelo Agrisi, hauled before the courts. They charged. They have court cases underway. The question then becomes, what about all the others who are implicated? What is the difference?
That is why I said it would have been better if the law enforcement agencies would have been called, because these are all the questions in which they're supposed to be asked and answered. But let's remember, they are accountable to Parliament. There is a department somewhere out there which is meant to come back to a parliamentary committee and say, this is how we're doing with these investigations. We are not going to tell you the nitty-gritties as to who is guilty and who is not guilty. However, we're going to tell you the progress that you've been able to attain. If there are any challenges that are there, then we'll come back and say, these are challenges that we have found and you can't prosecute even further. But it is definitely, it paints the investigative side of our departments or our agencies in a bad light. It seems as if they are not doing all that they can in order to investigate and prosecute these individuals efficiently. And to me, as a taxpayer and a member of the public, it simply says we have a government which is not working, we have law enforcement agencies which are not working, and the situation is going to continue in perpetuity, so that at the end of the day, there's no results, tangible results, which are being given back to us. And it is one thing in which I would say, whenever there are new interviews for a person who's going to head a department or any agencies, the very first question would be, what is wrong with the current entity, with the entity at this moment? What are your proposals in terms of changing it? Can you hold you accountable? And will your interventions bring the results in which we desire? We need to come back to an action-based South Africa. We need to come to an action-based or results-driven departments and state-owned entities. It can't be that we keep on responding to issues and addressing issues each and every single year with no results, with no interventions at the end of the day.
Well, we have to leave it there. But thank you so much for your time this morning. Mpumelelo Zikalala is a legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys, commenting on the ruling by the chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, Justice Raymond Zondo, who dismissed the application by former Director General of the State Security Agency, Arthur Fraser, to cross-examine certain witnesses who had testified about him before the Commission during his tenure at the SSA. All right, so we're going to take a quick break before we get to your news at 7.